Hey, what's going on, Summoners? My name is Nathaning, and today we're going to be walking you guys through the only Zeri guide that you'll ever need. This new champion pushes boundaries on how ADCs are meant to be played. On top of this, her kit makes her feel extremely unique and also quite different. We're just saying that you definitely don't want to miss out on this video, so stay tuned. Nonetheless, let's hop right into the video. After quite a bit of time on the PBE, Zeri got a hotfix to her kit. She was actually being seen as too strong, so Riot took her down a notch after a few nerfs. They just wanted to get rid of some of her snowballing damage as she gained momentum very quickly. Alongside this, some of her strength was found in her full AP build that actually lets her take turrets extremely quickly. While we've yet seen a complete fix for this, it seems that Riot August is debating whether or not to remove this newfound feature. While it does seem like it'd be incredibly powerful to be able to demolish turrets with ease, this also does get rid of her power elsewhere. At the moment, Zeri has quite a few itemization options with the AP path being open. She's able to build full crit damage on hit AP and even a few wacky variations that let her nearly one-shot enemy carries with her basic attack. Taking a look at some of Zeri's inspiration, we got what Riot Kashmir calls what you get when you combine electricity, tagalog, and a sweet gun. Zeri's entire kit was meant to be built around the unique basic attack function. League has always featured a ton of guns across multiple champions, or in Aphelios' case, all in one. However, none of these guns have actually made you feel like you're wielding a gun. The goal of Zeri was to add in something with the FPS game feature as their primary source of damage. The closest thing to this game was Ezreal, who kind of uses a magical glove to deal bonus magic damage. In Zeri's case, she's meant to embody the communal importance of Zon with the classic run and gun style of gameplay. This means that Zeri is looking to constantly aim down her sides to burst down enemies while also keeping an eye out for good reposition opportunities. The new champion brings forth a ton of aspects from shooters like Valorant and CSGO. From her damage needing to be aimed to her mobility, to be able to wallbang in Summoner's Rift, we feel that Riot did a good job reaching this goal. Before we dive into more information about Zeri and how to best use her abilities, don't forget to check us out at ProGuides.com. You can go ahead and view our great catalog of challenger coaches that can personally create a walkthrough to your dream rank. Got a busy schedule? Well, we've got you covered. Our trained roster of coaches are here 24/7 to really help you reach your goal. Plus, we've got a big sale going on right now. Use the code WINTER for 20% off your ProGuide subscription. What are you waiting for? Check us out and take advantage of this amazing sale. Anyway, let's get back into the video and dive right into Zeri's abilities. Starting off with Zeri's passive, it's honestly one of the most important and simple ones that we've gotten in a while. Whenever Zeri damages a shield, she'll gain 60% of that damage dealt back as her own shield. Plus, this will grant her an additional 10% movement speed for 3 seconds. There isn't much to play around with this ability, but it's a nice little touch for Zeri. Keeping this passive in mind, Zeri will benefit from facing champions that use Shield Bow, Gargoyles, Sterax, or even shield-based abilities like Lulu or Ivern. Be sure to keep this in mind for later when we talk about when you'd want to run and draft Zeri. Taking a look at one of her most complicated abilities, we've got Zeri's Q. Let's break this ability apart into 2 different pieces. Starting off, let's look at her Q's passive ability. With the passive, Zeri's basic attacks are treated as abilities and will charge over time as seen through a bar under her mana. When this is uncharged, her basic attacks will deal a small amount of magic damage that deals bonus damage to enemies below 35% HP. This means it'll be a good way to end your combos later on. However, if you wait for this to be fully charged, it'll do significantly more magic damage that scales off of max health. This will slow the enemies by 20% for 1.5 seconds. The best thing to take away from this is that your combos will often start with your charged attack for the extra % HP damage, and then they will end with an uncharged attack for some bonus execute damage. Now, taking a look at her Q's active, this is the basic portion of the entire ability. Simply put, her Q is treated as a basic attack. When used, she'll fire a burst of 7 rounds that each do a small amount of physical damage to the first enemy hit. This can be best thought of as an Ezreal Q, although it scales harder and has a slightly shorter range. The bullets that Zeri fires can crit and apply on-hit effects. On top of this, the cooldown and cast time on her Q scales with attack speed. This means that Zeri will do extremely well with attack speed, similar to Yasuo or Yone, since they'll let her use her Q a lot more often. On top of this, once she reaches a 1.5 attack speed cap, 50% of her excess attack speed will be converted into AD. So this is essentially your best way of scaling into Zeal or on-hit items without hurting your damage a little bit too much. Overall, Zeri's Q is her bread and butter ability that truly makes a champion who she is. This is also what a majority of her itemization is centered around, but we'll talk about that a little bit more later. Moving on to her W, we've got a fairly odd ability for Zeri's kit. It's best to think of it as Jinx's Zap ability. Zeri will fire a pulse of electricity that deals magic damage and slows the first enemy hit by 50%. It has a fairly decent AD scaling and long range. Its range is enhanced if you hit a terrain, as it will then transform into a laser that can hit multiple enemies. I wouldn't put too much emphasis on this ability at the moment, since it's more than often a one-off for you to catch up to enemies. Diving into Zeri's E, we've got her key mobility ability. To put her E into perspective, it's best to view it as a combination of Vayne's Tumble and Kai'Sa's E. When cast, Zeri dashes a short distance. If she encounters terrain during this dash, she will also vault over it. After dashing, Zeri's next 3 shots of burst fire will pierce, dealing 80% damage to enemies after the first. On top of this, hitting champions with attacks or abilities will reduce her E's cooldown by 1.5 seconds. This ability is extremely powerful for multiple reasons. In-game, you'll be most likely using this for extremely basic traits, wave clear, and dodging key abilities. However, where this ability really shines is the reset potential and long distance. With some practice, Spark Surge allows you to wall ride quickly out of base, similar to a Bard portal. On top of this, you can easily rotate to invades with your jungler or catch an enemy to stop them from escaping. There's also an amazing synergy that your E has with your ultimate, which we'll be covering right now. Finally, taking a look at Zeri's ultimate, Lightning Crash, it's an extremely powerful ability. When cast, Zeri will discharge a nova of electricity around her, dealing a slight amount of magic damage. The important part is that for every champion hit, she will gain 3 stacks of overcharge for 6 seconds. These stacks are incredibly important for Zeri to function in the late game teamfights. Each stack of overcharge will grant you 2% movement speed. Whenever you hit an enemy champion with an attack or ability, it will add yet another stack of overcharge and extend its duration by 2 seconds. Yeah, this is pretty powerful when kiting champions like Ornn or Aatrox. On top of this, while overcharged, Zeri will gain 30% attack speed, additional on-hit damage, her burst fire will fire faster, and she gains a static shiv-like ability. The shiv ability really wraps her kit together extremely well. Remember how we were talking about her E synergy with her ultimate? Well, every time your electric shiv bounces to a champion, it will count towards your E's cooldown refund as well as your overcharge stacks. This means that versus tankier enemies, you'll be able to rapidly kite around them with your low E cooldown and extremely high movement speed. Overall, this ability is what makes or breaks a good teamfight for Zeri, so be sure to practice keeping an eye on all your stacks. Now, before we continue with the video, don't think for a second that we have forgotten about everybody's favorite ProGuides tradition and also my favorite tradition, because I love reading your comments. For our question of the day today, we want to ask you guys, what do you think of Zeri's unique kit design? Personally, I think it's really interesting that Riot drew inspiration from FPS games and brought it into League. Regardless, let us know your answers in the comment section down below, and let's hop back into the video and take a look at how Zeri actually feels and fits into the game. Let's quickly dive into Zeri's playstyle and how she flows throughout the game. At the moment, Zeri's early game can feel a little bit awkward due to her fairly short range and inability to hit through minions. That being said, if you're facing a melee support or a shorter range ADC, you can easily survive and scale through the early game. If the enemy ever missteps or chooses to skirmish for early dragons, you should be able to pick up some free kills as well. With this in mind, Zeri is an extremely snowbally champion, so any kills that you can get early are extremely worth it. Just be sure that you don't try too hard to force them and end up getting yourself behind. Just remember, you're playing off of missteps and your jungler. Once you get your mythic, you're going to be quite a bit stronger. Mid-game is where Zeri thrives since she's extremely powerful at 2 items with nearly every single build that you go. Thanks to her high mobility and assassination potential, she can look to take objectives with her allies, or she can pick off enemy carries for mispositioning. Your team fighting in the mid-game is also powerful thanks to your ultimate and the lack of damage that most other champions will have. Just keep in mind that any low cooldown hard CC is a direct counter to your champion. Essentially, just be afraid of champions like Twisted Fate who can easily stun card you out of your kiting. Otherwise, mid-game is your playground to show off your skills, strengths, and overall just have fun with your champion. Taking a look at Zeri's late game, she's an incredibly powerful champion. Her scalings are amazing, and with how many builds that she can go, she's very versatile and can adapt to whatever her team needs. With this in mind, however, she's also very vulnerable in the later stages of the game. Control mages and long-range ADCs are going to be fully scaled and can easily one-shot you if you're not careful. This means that positioning and patience is going to be more important than ever in the late game. If you're able to get a free hit during teamfights, the game should be easily won thanks to your immense amount of mobility and DPS. It's extremely important to note that versus some team comps, you'll wipe them due to their lack of range or CC. However, versus champions like TF, Victor, Caitlyn, or Jinx, you may struggle a little bit as the game goes on. It'll take a lot of practice to get used to, but if you're familiar with how Samara plays the late game, then you should pick up Zeri in no time. Before we continue on, if you want to join an amazing community of people like you that loves lists, talk pieces, and other things like this, check out our Discord using the link found in the description. So what are you waiting for? Join up! Nonetheless, let's get back into the video and take a look at our final few notes and how you should look to itemize Zeri. Finally, let's get right into Zeri's itemization paths and options. At the moment, Zeri has quite a few viable builds. She can easily go on hit, crit, AP, or a mix of all 3. We'll be going over her crit build as it allows for the most versatility across all games and gives a steady power spike throughout the entirety of the game. For your runes, it's best to look at Conqueror or Lethal Tempo. Conqueror helps with a ton of ramping up of your damage in the early and mid game. However, Lethal Tempo makes your Q have a lower cooldown and it'll give you bonus range at max stacks. Afterwards, you want to go Triumph or Presence of Mind into Legend Alacrity and Coup de Grace. Your secondary tree is fairly flexible, but we found some good success with Biscuits and either Boots or Cosmic Insight to really help with your early game. As for your build, you'll be looking to grab Shield Bow in most games. You can opt for Gale Force as well, but be sure to grab Bloodline in your runes if you do. Afterwards, you'll be getting Defensive Boots or Swiftness Boots, Lord Dominic's Regards, Phantom Dancer, Infinity Edge, and then your choice of Guardian Angel or Mortal Reminder. Now before we end off the video, there's a few fun and important combos for you to learn. One of them being that you can cast your W during your E. This will allow you to slow down pursuers or catch up to stragglers in the jungle. There's actually quite a few things that you can do with your E as well, one of them being that you can recall while your E is being cast, which will shave off a few seconds while also putting you in a safer position. Taking a look at your generic all-in combo, you're going to want to start with your W, E towards them, basic attacks, use your Q to whittle them down, and then basic attack to finish them off. This combo will slow them down, let you catch up, slow them down again, then deal DPS with your Q in order to finally execute them with your uncharged basic attack. Just keep in mind that this combo makes you fairly vulnerable, so it's best to only really go for it when you know that they don't have allies there. And that sums up our video for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to check out our ProGuides family at ProGuides.com. We offer exclusive giveaways and classes that you won't be able to catch anywhere else, so stay tuned and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you guys back in the next video, but don't forget, stay safe, stay healthy, and have a wonderful day. Peace.